What's up, everybody? Welcome to TeslaFix. Today we also have, again, a very special episode because we're going to talk about the Cybertruck again, but this time we're going to go into detail, pretty detailed things we're going to look at. And of course, when we talk about the Cybertruck, we have to talk with Matthew Donegan-Ryan, of course, from Twitter, because he made such a great giga ultra mega post of the Cybertruck on there, and he has pretty interesting predictions on the Cybertruck. That's why, please everybody, give it up for Matthew joining us here today. And yeah, I'm pretty excited, Matthew, that you're on. And yeah, how about you could just tell my audience what you're up to right now, what you're doing, what you're focusing on right now, and then we can just jump right into the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I always love coming on your channel and chatting about Tesla and Cybertruck. So yeah, very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm super pumped to look at the new Cybertruck details we have. I mean, you always cover the Cybertruck pretty thoroughly, and the whole Tesla community was pretty glad that you went to the shareholder meeting and you really covered everything on the front. You've talked to high profile people from Tesla and also engineers, so you got a view inside of the company, what's happening. And at that point, not much details were here, but now we've seen the Cybertruck already rolling around. I mean, yeah, here, for example, we have some sightings of the Cybertruck going around. Here somebody drives besides the Cybertruck. So the testing phase is pretty going on right now. It's right, yeah, everywhere you see some Cybertrucks popping up, some posts. Yeah, so here is also one video, and then we can just start talking about it. Here's a test vehicle, of course. This is won't come out of the factory this way, but yeah, what are your thoughts on those sightings? How near are we? Can we expect the Cybertruck to be delivered tomorrow, or when do we will see the Cybertruck?
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of before the Model Y was released. We saw these pre-production samples, and then later all these release candidates traveling around, especially up and down the West Coast, and people were seeing them at superchargers and taking pictures of them and pictures of the battery. And yeah, we're seeing more and more Cybertruck sightings, and in lots of locations. You know, we just saw one pop up in Toronto, which is pretty far away from Texas and California. We've seen them testing down in New Zealand, so we'll see more and more. I think production of the release candidates has obviously started. We know Elon previously said that the Cybertruck would have an unveiling event and the first deliveries in Q3 of this year. I imagine he's really going to try and stick to that, or maybe push it off a month or so, but I don't think he'll want to push it off until December. So I imagine we will see them, the first one sold in September and October, likely in very low quantities. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if we see deliveries of 25 to 100 vehicles, and then no more deliveries until maybe November or December. And then I imagine we'll see single digit thousands of deliveries this year.
Yeah, the big question is, are your quadrillion Cybertrucks in those 300s? Because you've already pre-ordered so many. We've talked about this last episode, and I found it very astonishing. Yeah. So when do you expect to get your Cybertrucks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to receive one of mine this year. You know, if there's only 1,000 or a couple thousand, 5,000 sold, you know, it would be tough.
First come, first serve. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I remember with the Model 3, you know, my Model 3 was like the 4,000th one or so off the line, and I received it in January of 2018. So I think that was, 6-7 months after the first delivery.
Yeah.
I do think the scale up of the Cybertruck will be faster than the Model 3. Obviously, Model 3 went through extreme production hell and took a long time to scale up. So, I don't think I'll get one of the first few hundred or first few thousand, but maybe I'll get one around 5 or 10,000 in, which would be really nice.
Yeah, fingers crossed, of course. Yeah. So, Matthew, we've seen a lot of sightings of the Cybertruck, like I've mentioned before, and now it seems to be ready. I have a pretty interesting picture here that's very funny. This is from, of course, from GoldenEye, the game we've seen like in the 90s. We've played, maybe some people played this, and yeah. So I think this was a funny meme because the Cybertruck depicted in the back is so accurate. Actually, I think you couldn't do it better. It's such a low poly model. This could be in every game. Elon Musk is a little bit pointy on his head, but still, it's pretty funny. Yeah, but we've seen the workers already pumping them out, like the first ones, of course. I mean, I think I don't know. Do you think they are already produced in production models, or are they still in a tooling phase, or yeah, it's still figuring it out? Does this Cybertruck even have a door? We've heard about this as well. People, there's a whole conspiracy theory on the if there is a door. Actually,
yeah, I love the people who spend their whole life posting negatively about Twitter and Elon and Tesla and all of Elon's businesses. It's like let's say this didn't have a door. It obviously has a door that's open, but let's say it didn't have a door. You don't think there's going to be a door? As if that would make any difference.
It's not real. It's vaporware.
Yeah.
According to Gordon Johnson, all those people aren't even real, I think.
Yeah, we'll see. So yeah. I mean, it sounds like they're building release candidates. So these are vehicles that are built in the same manner that production will be built. I'm sure they have Tesla parts that need to be changed. They have supplier parts that need to be changed. So they're just testing everything. I imagine a lot of these vehicles, any of these release candidates, they can never actually be sold, but they can be used around the factory and for testing, for transporting stuff between locations. But yeah, they won't be used for service vehicles or loaners or sold or anything like that. But you never know. Maybe they can be, the parts can be recycled, or some of them repurposed. Obviously, the stainless steel is pretty easy to recycle, but who knows about anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. And one big thing I think for the Cybertruck was, of course, because you said stainless steel, they can recycle it very easily. But what about the paint? And of course, we know that the Cybertruck won't have a paint shop. That's part of the low cost of this, because they can just, for the Cybertruck production line, they get rid of a huge part of the factory actually, and that's why they're gonna wrap the Cybertruck. And we've seen some sightings of, I mean, you can't really see it actually. There are floating wheels probably on the air. And you see. Yeah, so it might be wrapped in camouflage, but this is the one that was driving around, and people had really much liked it. So, how is your opinion on or your thoughts on or your thesis on the wrapping? Will they offer wrappings, and how it's gonna unfold? I have a different video here as well. We can just talk over this video. Yeah.
Sure.
What do you think about wrapping?
I mean, wrapping Teslas is obviously pretty popular. You see quite a few of them on the road. It's the minority of people who actually will wrap their cars. Cybertruck won't be painted because of the flat panels. This will be the easiest vehicle to wrap. Wrapping around curves and really intricate parts of vehicles, like a bumper that has a lot of different angles and things like that is tricky. But wrapping a door on a regular car is extremely simple. So like wrapping this vehicle will be very easy. It'll take a lot less time than wrapping, say, like a Model 3 or a Model Y. I don't think Tesla will offer this from the factory. We did hear a couple of years ago, Tesla was offering wrapping services in China at their Chinese service centers. So not actually at the Chinese factory, but at various service centers. So we heard about that, but I actually haven't seen any kind of updates or people posting about wraps that they got from Tesla. So I don't know if that was really rolled out. The thing about wraps is maintaining them can be tricky. So I imagine if Tesla offers wraps, they're going to have a lot of warranty issues of people coming back and
that's true.
The wrap peeling or getting keyed or scratched. So I don't think Tesla will want to deal with all of those service complaints. It wouldn't shock me if they sold, pre-cut
Ah.
vinyl wraps that you could order, and then you could have a local company install, or you could install yourself. I think that would be a much smarter
Mm-hmm.
way to do it. Then they don't have to deal with complaints afterwards. But I think there'll be a lot of wraps. Personally, I might put like my company's branding or something
Mm-hmm.
on the car
Makes
because
sense.
it'd
Yeah.
be very easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, here in the US, there's been cars that have been popular to wrap over the years that get attention. So, like, I remember when I was in high school, the new Volkswagen Beetle came out, and there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, a lot of companies like wrapping those because people would look at them, and
Yeah.
other cars that stand out, like the PT Cruiser when that came out, that was
Yeah.
popular.
Exactly.
Got the
Yeah. I just
commercial
wanted to
wrapping.
mention that. Yeah, the PT
Yeah,
Cruiser was crazy design. Yeah, it's
yeah.
pretty 30s inspired. Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
So I imagine this car, the Cybertruck will get more looks than any other vehicle, like more than an
Yeah.
exotic supercar. So putting your branding on it will certainly get attention. So I would imagine this will be very popular for like commercial advertising wraps. And
Mhm.
then, if every car is stainless steel, that's going to look really cool when there's, a couple in your town. But when there's hundreds of these in your town, or thousands of these in your town, some people want to customize it a little bit more.
Yeah, makes absolutely sense. And I think like a matte black Cybertruck will be also very powerful as a, I don't know, as a limousine or something like that in that direction. What are your views on Cybertruck becoming maybe or having an impact on pop culture? How do you think that the
Yeah.
Cybertruck?
Yeah, I mean, we've already
Yeah.
seen not these pre-production samples, but we saw the prototype was in video games. It was in a couple of
Hmm.
music videos. It'll be interesting to see how it pops up in pop culture. I imagine we'll see it in a lot of music videos, in
Of
film and
course, yeah.
television. Usually, those vehicles, if it's a bigger budget production, will have product placement. So usually,
Hmm.
Ford or GM or Land Rover or somebody like that is sponsoring the the production and placing their vehicles. So we're not going to see the Cybertruck in James Bond if
Yeah,
Tata Motors is paying to get their Land Rovers in there,
yeah, of
or
course.
Aston Martin is paying to get their cars in there. Um, but we will see it in maybe lower budget productions where they're not getting sponsored. I
Hmm.
think it'll be very popular. This is going to be a very popular car for law enforcement. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
so we could see a lot of police versions of this in in real life as well as in TV and film.
Yeah, it totally makes sense because it's like 9 millimeter bullets. If this still is holding up, have you heard that this changed, or is it still a thing? Like
Yeah,
the
I haven't heard anything about that. The only thing that would make it change is if they were using thinner material. It
Mhm,
sounds like this is no longer going to have kind of the exoskeleton
mhm.
design that was initially predicted. So if that's the case, maybe the stainless steel doesn't need to be as thick, and if it's not as thick, it's not going to be as resistant to impact. So we'll find out soon, I imagine.
Yeah, I also am very interested in this, and I think we're gonna see a lot of content with the Cybertruck, and I can't even think about. So I think about that somebody will shoot at this thing, of course.
Oh, I'm
Some
sure.
kind of on a door or something, some kind of test we're gonna see. I think a very expensive test, but it's gonna get views, of course. Yeah, and you've predicted also something here that I found very interesting, and that's about the 6-seater option and the 5-seater option, because initially the Cybertruck should have got 6 seats, and I was super pumped about this feature because I love it to have 3 people on the front row. But of course, for also the European market, this thing has to be a little bit smaller, and I hope still. We can talk about this maybe at the end if this comes out from Europe. So hold your horses. Maybe somebody down in the comments, please write if do you think that this will come out internationally, especially in Europe or in New Zealand, for example, or Australia? This will be very interesting for me to see if how you think it, and also when the release date of the Cybertruck is. So please write it down below into the comments, and because I'm super curious about the people's opinion on this. And yeah, but you've said here, and it was confirmed that it's just gonna get 5 seats, not 6, sadly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's only going to get 5 seats. I was told this from the team back in March. When I posted that, a lot of people didn't believe me or said it was wrong or said a 6 seat would be an option. But um, obviously, Tesla has confirmed, in their latest quarterly report that it will just have 5 seats. A little disappointing for some people. I
Yeah.
definitely would have preferred 6 seats. But if you look at the F-150, the F-150 offers a 6 seat configuration, and basically nobody orders it.
Oh,
You get a
interesting.
lot of complaints about some feature that the Cybertruck won't have, like a
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
folding midgate, like the 6 seat, but or like a 8-foot bed. But those are the kind of things that truck buyers don't actually buy.
Hmm.
If you look at the F-150, the vast majority of their vehicles are their Super Crew short bed. So that's 4 full-size doors and a 5.5-foot bed. That's the way, over half of all F-150s are built.
Hmm.
Um, so these other features that would be nice to have, really aren't
Hmm.
going to impact its sales, especially in the first, 3-4 years.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. And of course, yeah, the pass through thing with the Cybertruck was also a feature, like you said, that yeah, I've already also seen like people complaining about the stuff, but it will. I mean, we will see how it's going to be adopted, but I think it won't impact any sales if this feature is not there. So yeah, but also you've said something or predicted here about the pricing, because we've heard that Ford also with their pricing they're going up and down, and it's still very high actually. And Elon commented on this, so maybe you can just tell the audience what was up there and how you are predicting the Cybertruck pricing and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. So with the Cybertruck, when it was unveiled several years ago, they said there was going to be 3 versions: a single, dual, and tri-motor. And
Hmm.
the prices would start at 39, 49, and 69,000. So I'm predicting there will only be a dual motor and a tri-motor.
Hmm.
About a year and a half ago, Elon said that there was no longer going to be a tri-motor, there'd be a quad motor, and that would be the first version released. But I actually think they have scrapped the quad motor and they're going back to a tri-motor. It will have a similar powertrain to the Plaid
Hmm.
Model
Yeah,
S and
makes
Model
sense.
X, where it's a single, high efficiency wound motor in the front, dual hairpin motors in the rear. And the pricing, I'm predicting the dual will be, 59.9, and the tri will be, 79.9, or just under 80,000, to take advantage of the federal tax credit we have here in the US. So
Hmm.
these prices are about $10,000 more than the revealed price.
Hmm.
But every other vehicle has every other truck kind of in this range has increased in price far more than that. So if you look at an F-150 Raptor, which was, Ford did a lot of comparisons to that when the Cybertruck was unveiled, or the prototype was unveiled. The Raptor at the time of the unveiling started at about 45,000 for the
Hmm.
super cab version, and I think 48 or 49,000 for the Super Crew, four-door version, and went up to a maximum of about $69,000-$70,000. Now the Raptor starts at around $70,000 and goes up to like
Hmm.
over $110,000. So truck prices have gone way up since the unveiling. I think if I think the Cybertruck will be worth much more than the sales price on the secondary
Hmm.
markets. But I think Tesla is not going to try and kind of capture the current value. I think they'll want to announce the pricing is pretty low, especially if it's low volume. If they're not selling a ton of these, it doesn't really impact their financials if they sell the top tier trim for 79,000 versus say $110,000. They would
Hmm.
still sell the same amount of vehicles, regardless of that price difference for the first 6 months or year. But it won't look great from a PR standpoint of kind of capturing that higher kind of market price, you could say.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Sounds plausible to me. Of course, I hope that the price will be even lower, but I think yeah, it's a reasonable price for what you get, and this is pretty much unprecedented. But one question I have, because for me, the Cybertruck, of course, also ties into their new vehicle platform, and those are utility vehicles. And they've also talked about the Tesla van. I call it the Cybervan, of course, because I think it's going to be more in the Cybertruck design, and I hope it will be. But how do you see? I mean, this is very much speculation territory, of course. But what's your opinion, maybe on this? Maybe you can share with the audience that how this could affect, or how should a van be priced in that category? If you're just playing around with some numbers, maybe. So
Yeah,
how
I
do you
mean,
think?
we've seen the slide showing the next gen platform is going to be two
Mhm.
vehicles, or at least two vehicles. One of them the Robotaxi, and one of them a larger vehicle that looks like a van or a bus shape. The Robotaxi may also be the lower price kind of $25,000 model that we've heard about for years. We know these vehicles. The Robotaxi will need to be a very durable and robust vehicle.
Yeah.
It's going to be treated like a taxi. I don't know if you've ever been
Yeah.
inside a 10-year-old
Yeah.
taxi in New York, but they're beat to hell. So it will need to be very durable. Having the stainless steel doors, not having to deal with paint or door dings, I think will be perfect for that type of vehicle. The interior could be even more robust. It could have a rubber floor that could be hosed out, like an
Yeah.
off-road truck or a Jeep or something like
That
that.
makes sense. Yeah.
So we could see that with a van. If Tesla wants to go after the Mercedes Sprinter
Mhm.
market, the Ford Transit market, it's not a massive market, but I think Tesla could basically own that entire market, because the people purchasing those vehicles are making economical decisions. They're buying a vehicle that
True.
meets all of their requirements and will have the lowest cost of ownership. And of course, a Tesla EV van will cost less per mile than probably any other vehicle
Mhm.
that someone could purchase. And because of the EV platform not having to take up a lot of room for an engine and transmission and drivetrain, you could actually, for the same, to get the same amount of storage space, you could actually have a smaller vehicle.
Mhm.
Or for obviously the same size, you could have more storage space. So yeah, I think it will be very popular. I imagine a van would if you look at all of Tesla's vehicles now, they're kind of priced the same as an ICE vehicle in the same
Mhm.
category.
Yeah.
So a Model 3 to purchase it, might be more than a Toyota Corolla or Toyota Camry, but it's less than what's called a near luxury vehicle. So it's going to be
Mhm.
lower priced than like a Lexus or a
Yeah.
BMW or something of that same kind of category. Same thing with the Model S and the Model X. They're cheaper than
Mhm.
luxury SUVs and cars of that size. The Cybertruck, if it comes in at the prices that I'm projecting, it's going
Mhm.
to be less expensive than an equivalent, off-road capable, high-end, Ford F-150 by quite
Mhm.
considerably. So imagine a van would come in at, around the same price as the purchase
Mhm.
price of an ICE van, but
Mhm.
the cost of ownership will be far lower.
Yeah, makes sense. Because we had some interesting stuff in Europe happening, because the VW IDbus that was sold here was produced around 40,000 times. So the production number was around 40,000, and they sold like 20,000, and this is a huge problem. And they sales plummeted really much, and that's also due to the pricing, because if you compare because you have to understand that especially in Europe, those Sprinter vans actually run this country. Like
Yeah.
we don't have those. I mean, of course, we have big trucks and as well for delivery stuff, and but just for long distances. And we don't have pickup trucks, of course. Pickup trucks aren't as much of a thing here. Of course, we have some on the road, and most of them are imports. And the thing is, the vans are the category for electricians, plumbers, and also as a utility vehicle, we use like those Sprinter vans or even smaller vans. So I think Tesla tackling this category actually is such an important move for the European market, to scale up here. And it makes sense if it's just the same platform. Let's just imagine it has similar wheelbase. It's similar like the Cybertruck, but just a van on top. This could make things pretty much easier. And the payload, of course, the Cybertruck also has a bigger payload than of course the Model 3 or anything else, because it's the utility category. But I think we will see something there, and I think they should price the vehicle below an IDbus, and if they do that, then they're gonna sell like hotcakes, of course, because people want those vans. They also build up those vans to campers, for example, or change that, and so yeah, many and we have many specialized companies here as well that like how do you call it, customize those vehicles to fit, for example, camping or anything else.
Outfit them in
outfit them
custom configurations. Yeah, we see that here in the US. Obviously, vans aren't quite as ubiquitous here because trucks are so popular, and we have larger roads, so you can bring like full-size
six-wheeler, six-wheeler even, or a Raptor. Those Raptors are also crazy. All those customized Texan trucks are also crazy. I mean, they are not street legal here in any means. Like, we will never get something like this on the road here. But it's awesome. The big truck community, what they have, it's interesting to watch. I think I'm also a huge fan of this, despite it's being very polluting. But I think it's interesting that the America has this diesel truck DNA, and it's interesting to see that, especially in the South. It's pretty amusing to watch, or it's interesting. Like for a European, it's like, oh, you can't do that. It almost hurts them just looking at it, and I find it very funny. But I think Tesla will tackle this with this new vehicle category. Absolutely. So, okay, then we have the details on pricing, which was already pretty interesting. Then we might hop over to different details, because you've did your homework, of course. And here are some interesting estimates for the dimensions. I think this is also very important. You compared it with F-150 Raptor. And my question I had, I've already known since our last episode, you have some background with trucks. Is that correct? Or
right? I've owned a bunch of F-150s. I think I've owned 6 F-150s, including 4 Raptors. And I worked at a Ford dealership in high school and college, so very familiar with them. I came up with these dimensions based on the vehicle that I saw in March. It appears the one dimension that I think I'm off is the overall length. So, Tesla has now said that the Cybertruck will be just under 19 feet. So 19 feet is 228 inches, I believe.
Okay.
So I imagine I'm
a little bit smaller.
Be about 3 inches shorter. I think it will be just barely, under 19 feet. Like, so, maybe I was 3 inches long there. I did say give myself a 2-inch leeway, but looks like I needed a 3-inch leeway.
So you're not correct. Just put it in the trash, this chart. No, of course not. It's still accurate.
The width will be about 84 inches, including the fender flares. All full-size trucks here in the US are just under 80 inches. They're usually around 79.9 inches wide. The reason for that is when you hit the 80-inch mark, you have to have wide vehicle marker lights, which are those amber lights you see, at the front of a vehicle, usually above the windshield or on the bumper, and the red lights going around the side and the rear of the vehicle. That doesn't include mirrors. But with the Cybertruck, if it's that same width or even a little, say 2 inches less, it still has those fender flares, which the flares that stick out to cover the wheels or the tires a little bit more, which will make it wider than that 80-inch kind of industry standard width. As far as the bed, very comfortable with the bed measurements that I gave. Tesla has said they just said it's going to have a 6-foot bed. So my measurement, it's just over 6 foot. So it's just barely less than 6 foot 1 inches, I believe. So it means you can comfortably put something that's 6 feet long inside the bed and just over 4 feet wide.
Interesting. Yeah, pretty much interesting here. About the suspension, I've heard that the Tesla got better and better with suspension. I think this was like a small problem at first, not with the Cybertruck, of course. I mean, before the vehicle category, the Model 3s and the Model Ys got significantly better with suspension. Also, the Hardware 4 models are also even better with suspension. So how do you think the suspension of the Cybertruck will be? Is it going to be a massive suspension?
Yeah, so it has standard air suspension.
Mhm.
The air cylinders are the biggest of any production truck. I posted some pictures of them in that thread. I talked to Sandy Monroe about them. He said they were the largest air tanks for air suspension he's ever seen, larger than what's on the Ram truck, which is, I believe, the only other full-size truck that has air suspension.
Yeah.
Payload. So what this means is the payload. So the payload is the amount of weight you can put in the bed of a truck. It looks like it appears it's going to be bigger than any other what we call a half-ton truck. So a half-ton truck is an F-150 or like a Chevy 1500. So the payload will be far greater than any of those vehicles, and that's partly because of the air suspension. You can load up the bed and raise up the suspension so it won't sag too much. Tesla team also told me that they have tested this for Baja style racing. So they think in the stock version of the car you will be able to drive it off-road in a Baja style race. Obviously that will put massive wear and tear on your suspension, but most trucks you have to purchase aftermarket suspension to be able to take on something like that.
So if you're driving home from a long work day and you see a Baja race and you think like, let's just hit the road there. I can do it with the suspensions.
Yeah,
but
you can do it. I mean, one thing people need to realize is suspension is a wear part. So just like your tires or your brakes or your wipers, this is a part that wears out over time. So the F-150 Raptor comes with an off-road suspension. And if you don't drive your Raptor off-road, your shocks and springs, they should last about 100,000 miles. But if you drive it off-road at all, they might only last 5,000 miles or 10,000 miles. So if you are driving this off-road, and by driving it off-road, I mean not driving on gravel roads, but going over a lot of bumps or possibly jumping it at all, your suspension will wear out very quickly. So don't think just because it's capable of something doesn't mean it will do that forever with no type of maintenance costs.
Yeah, just like acceleration, always accelerating your vehicle with the Plaid, for example, the Model S Plaid. Your tires will get worn out, of course, and stuff like this. So yeah, that's true. And suspension is you're absolutely correct there. So the next point that I wanted to tackle here is also the build of the Cybertruck, because we've seen it from the outside. You've talked about the suspension, the things we've seen in the presentation as well, with the where the electronics are, the controller units and everything. You've posted great pictures. I'm gonna link, of course, your account, your account on down below. So people please check it out and also look at his great post. It still holds up. I always check it a little bit when I forget something. I'm gonna check. There was the info. So pretty interesting. But we have new pictures, of course, from the production line. And here, for example, maybe you can tell the audience what they are seeing here. And because this doesn't look like a exoskeleton anymore. Sandy Monroe also talked about this pretty thoroughly, but yeah. So maybe
this looks like the rear casting. It sounds like the Cybertruck will have a front and rear casting, and then the battery will be a structural piece. So the battery portion, the floor, will be added afterwards, and the seats will likely be mounted directly to the floor, the structural battery pack. So this is going to be very efficient way to manufacture the truck. This is partly why Tesla can sell this vehicle. That's likely going to be the best performing truck of all time, but they can sell this at less than the price of a fully loaded, F-150. So having the structural pack, it makes the structural pack as well as the castings makes this lighter than the traditional way to build a vehicle. You don't have to have a box on frame. It's going to be more rigid. it's going to hold up better in, a rollover accident or collision. If someone drives off a cliff or something like that, you're going to be a lot safer in this truck than anything else. So it's going to be exciting to see. This is the first vehicle that was kind of built from the ground up to have this type of construction with the front and rear castings and the structural pack. The Model Y is going that way now after a couple of years, but the Cybertruck is going to be built that way from the very start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty interesting that they implement this. And also, how do you think those production methods or this production methods of the castings, of course, gonna affect the other production types? For example, I'm pretty curious about the Robotaxi, because if it has to withstand such like wear and tear, will it be in the Cybertruck design? Maybe, we don't really know actually. But what is your opinion on this? Is that totally off the ballpark, or do they at least take some learnings? Of course they're gonna take some learnings, but how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean the next gen vehicle is built from the ground up to be the kind of the cheapest vehicle to build as well as to maintain. Robotaxis, they're likely have a lifespan in the somewhere in the, say, the 400,000 mile range.
Yeah.
So it's going to be designed to take a beating, and it will have a front and rear casting. A smaller vehicle. Elon was asked in the past if it was going to be a single casting. Since it's smaller, could you have one casting be the entire front and rear of the vehicle? And he said no, it didn't really make sense. It didn't make it stronger or less expensive or more durable. So imagine the next gen vehicle, as well as the Robotaxi, which is part of that, will have a front and rear casting, and then the structural pack as well.
Okay, so at least these things about the design we don't really know. Of course, it could be just more taken from the Model 3 Highland. I think they're gonna have a lot of learnings to implement those also onto the next vehicle generation there. Also here is another picture, a different view from the back, so everybody can see what we're looking at here. Of course, there's sadly no exoskeleton. Do you think why they choose this? Do you think it's just about production problems, or is it not feasible, or how do you see, or do you see the exoskeleton design? It's just actually like a Hot Wheels car, more or less.
Well, maybe the exoskeleton was a little overkill. I mean, Sandy Munro and his team would be better people to ask about that. We have to remember it's been almost 4 years since the prototype was unveiled, and so they've had a lot of learnings since then. Some things haven't panned out the way that Tesla would have liked. Biggest one being the improvements in battery technology with the 4680s is not yet at the milestones that Tesla announced during Battery Day, which I think is going to lead the Cybertruck not having as much range as was stated during the unveil. And I think the exoskeleton is just another one of those things that changed over time. But Tesla's engineering is always improving, so there's got to be reasons, whether it's cost or production, ease of production, or some other reason that we don't yet know. But maybe Elon will let us in on that secret sometime in the future.
Yeah, maybe this also was the reason why, or the reason why they got rid of the exoskeleton was maybe the size, due to or because of this problem they had to maybe shrink the size. This could also be a possibility, that their planned production methods had to be a little bit bigger maybe, and now they just reduce it to get this thing, due to all those regulations around the globe. Maybe they can find a sweet spot here, and then they can just sell those in more countries. So now we come to the big question. Do you think that the Cybertruck will come out in Europe? And please don't disappoint me now, because I have a reservation. You know that already. Has something changed? The audience already typed it down below.
This will probably disappoint your audience, but it's, as of now, I do not believe there's any plans to sell the Cybertruck in Europe. So what I was told is The Cybertruck is initially going to be released in North America, so it'll be sold in US, Canada, and Mexico. After that, they're looking at China, and that's all that's in the current plans. So I'm sure 5 years down the road, we'll
Oh
probably see the
God.
Cybertruck for sale in Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. But I doubt you will see it for sale, say, definitely not in 24, probably not in 25 or 26. Maybe after that, maybe there's a smaller version of the Cybertruck that might be sold. But if you think you're getting a Cybertruck in Europe in the next 2 to 3 years, you are going to be you're going to be upset.
Don't do this, Matthew.
Yeah, you have to remember, like, the U.S. market for full size trucks is huge. Ford sells 750,000 trucks a year. GM and Ram, I think, combined probably sell, I don't know, maybe 500,000-600,000 combined. You also have Nissan and Toyota making full size trucks. So there's, I don't know the total amount, but well over 1 million trucks, full size trucks a year sold in the U.S. So it's going to take Tesla a few years to get up to production, scale production, to kind of meet a lot of that demand. And so Europe is just, it's not needed in order to sell as many trucks as possible. Obviously, it's good from a branding standpoint. It's good for PR. I would imagine you'll see, rich people buy these vehicles in the US and import them, and try and register them if they're allowed, or maybe have some type of show and display license for them. But yeah, Tesla is not going to be selling these in their service centers in Europe for the next several years.
Okay, this hurts my audience and me as well, but of course, I mean, it makes sense. It totally makes sense. I think that if I have the opportunity, I'm half American, so maybe I can pull some strings or something to, I don't know, get my delivery in California or something, and then because maybe I have to sell all my Tesla shares to get this thing here, but this won't make sense, so I won't do it maybe. But I think for me, my plan was to rent out this thing here in Europe, of course, for 1K a day. And because I'm from video production, that's why I've also made a lot of rap videos, of course, in Germany. And that's why, rappers will most certainly rent this thing for their videos for 1 or 2 days, and then
you imported it even if you weren't allowed to drive it. You could,
that would be an expensive shoot.
Bring it to different shoots.
But I hope. The most important thing is it going to be street legal here, and there could be some there are some exceptions. I mean, we also have the Ford F-150 Raptors, maybe not the full stacked versions with the super broad wheelbase or something, but we can get I've already seen Ford F-150s, for at least, not the Raptor maybe, but because it's so few are in Europe. But maybe somehow you can import it, or maybe through Switzerland. I don't know. I'm not sure, because the Swiss also are
someone will find a way.
Somebody, and I'm gonna look for it. And there were also very interesting. I've dived so deep into this topic that people said, you could register it through Morocco. And then back to Europe and stuff like this, totally crazy rich people stuff that I don't understand. So such a rabbit hole, way too expensive, way too complicated. So not a feasible option for people. So maybe, how about the production numbers over the first years? How do you think this will play out in the future? Because now we focus on the US market again. I think it makes the most sense, of course, because that's the market for trucks. So
I imagine, this year, 2023, there'll be single-digit thousands of them built. I imagine in 2024, we'll see big ramp up. I would expect at least 100,000 units. Maybe there's some snags along the way, and it's only 50 to 70,000 units, but we could see 100 to 200,000 units. I imagine in 2025 we will see somewhere in the 250 to 400, maybe even 500,000 units, and then 2026 I am projecting will be the year that the Cybertruck outsells the F-150. So if the F-150 is selling, say, 700,000 units a year, in in a typical decent year for Ford, the Cybertruck should exceed that. It'll be in the 700, maybe 750,000 units in 2026. I imagine the F-150 will also take a bit of a hit. A lot of truck buyers
Yeah.
will move from the F-150 to the Cybertruck, as well as from the other full-size trucks. I've made this prediction a couple times on Twitter, and I got a ton of pushback. People telling me, "Hey, the F-150 has been the best-selling truck in the U.S. for the past 43 years. How is it gonna, lose its mark so quickly?" And I would tell people, look at Tesla's other vehicles. The Model Y, and it's been out for 3 years, and is now outselling the Toyota Corolla globally, which was the best-selling vehicle of all types, I think, for the last like 40 years or so. So it only took the Model Y about three and a half years or so to pass the Corolla. I think that we'll see something similar where the Cybertruck will pass the F-150 in about three and a half years as well.
Yeah, so don't look only at the past to predict the future. You have to really see what's happening and predict right now the contemporary numbers, everything we have right on the table. And just because something sold in the past doesn't mean it will sell in the future. But there are some indications. Of course, truck buyers are very stubborn. Also, I mean, they love their trucks. That's why. I get it. They're in a total different park, and it's all about towing and everything else. So so that's very important for them. But for the end, I think what I would love to hear, because you've had some contact with a dealer of the Ford F-150. You can maybe you can talk about this, because Tesla, of course, has you go on their website, you order a truck or everything else you want, and then they're gonna deliver it to you. And this is just a use case on or usability. How does it feel to engage with dealers? I mean, it's a bad example, of course. There might be better examples, but let's just talk about this for the end. I think that's a very funny thing to end the episode here.
Yeah, so this happened over the weekend. I saw an ad for a Cybertruck, so I decided to click on it. And you can click on the thread, but essentially the salesperson would not even tell me the price of the vehicle. So here in the US, new vehicles have an MSRP. During the pandemic, we've seen a lot of companies, a lot of dealerships mark up their vehicles above MSRP, and sometimes to ridiculous heights where a car might be 30 to 50% more, some of them even 100% more than MSRP. And in this case, they wouldn't even tell me the price until I went in the dealership. So we went back and forth a few times, and he kept trying to get me to go in and say like, once I'm there, they'll figure out the price, like as if I'm going to drive all the way to the dealership just for them to tell me how much it costs. And it really makes it hit home of how difficult it is for legacy automakers to compete with Tesla. Tesla are building the best EVs, but even if Tesla was building an average EV, so even if Ford or GM or Volkswagen or Mercedes, whoever, could build an EV with as good of a range and as good efficiency and as good of a battery and as good of a motor and as good autonomy, as good of an operating system, even if they were able to do all of that, which of course they're years behind, but even if they could, they're still not going to be able to compete with Tesla from a distribution standpoint. The dealerships make half the profit on every vehicle that's sold. So, if Tesla makes a Model Y for, say, $37,000 and sells that vehicle for say $47,000, they might make a $10,000 profit. For Ford, if Ford could match that, which of course they can't, there's cost them double to build that type of vehicle. But even if they could, instead of making a $10,000 profit on a Model Y, they'd be making a $5,000 profit, or they'd have to sell the vehicle for $5,000 more than Tesla to make the same amount of profit. So even if everything else was equal, legacy auto just mathematically cannot compete with Tesla long term, because their business model is being disrupted by the direct-to-consumer model that we see with Tesla.
That's absolutely crazy. I mean, you're hearing I think my kid is screaming in the back. It's a little bit confusing now, so sorry for that.
That's like...
Yeah. I mean, I can't do anything about it this way, but that's good that this happened just at the end of the episode because I have to leave now, sadly. But thanks again for sharing the story. I think the most funny bit was that he even stalked you on Facebook, which is pretty interesting here on the right. So yeah, I also think that it's pretty difficult. The truck market's gonna be really turned over by Tesla here. Every stone will be turned, and no stone will be left untouched. So yeah, I think it's going to be a success. So do you have some ending words on something you want to get off your chest to the audience or something? Or yeah, maybe you want to plug something as well for that.
Yeah, no, well, I'll be, commenting more on the Cybertruck. Feel free to follow me. I'm at Matthew DR on Twitter, X, and YouTube. So feel free to follow. Ask me any questions about either, trucks or Teslas. I've owned a ton of them, and so happy to give people any purchase advice they may have.
Okay, perfect. So Matthew, there's only one last thing we have to say to my audience, and then I'm gonna go to my kid, is to say goodbye, everybody.
Wasn't this episode awesome? Let's accelerate the pace of innovation by subscribing to TeslaFix. It is my absolute favorite channel on the whole interwebs.